Albert Breer is on
amazing.
on the horn right now from NFL Network. How you doing, Albert?
Hey, Rich, I've been on the wrong end of some of those stairs,
Yeah,
so I know what that feels like. And that was definitely the best part.
What is that like, Albert? What is that like, actually?
Well, you want to make sure you maintain eye contact with him. You don't want to be the guy who's looking into his lap or anything like that. So when I've been in that situation before, I just try to kind of keep eye contact until the next question's asked, and then he'll keep eyes locked with you as the next question's beginning, and then eventually move away.
Yeah, but you can't also, we've been through this before here on this show. You can't go yes or no question with him. You got to come correct, right? But sometimes
you have to. Well, you can't give him that out of a yes or no question. But something like that last night, I mean, that was a fair question. That's not a yes or no question, and he's pretty good on his feet. So you're not going to put him in a situation where you're going to catch him flat-footed too often. And I think he had a way yesterday of making the person asking that question feel about 2 feet tall.
Albert Breer joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. What is the Gronkowski update as you know it right now, Albert?
Well, I mean, they dodged a bullet. At least it looks that way right now. The MRI results haven't come back yet, but they anticipate that it's not season ending, and B, if it is what they think it is, then there's a good chance that he could be back well before the end of the regular season, which is great news. You consider where he was and where he has been over the course of his his entire career, going back to Arizona with the back problems and the knee problem after that. I think we all halfway expected the worst when he was loaded onto the cart. So they certainly got some good news on that front.
So Osweiler doing what he did last night under the circumstances and the weather and winning. Do we now truly have this conversation about Manning's health, or is that's it? I mean, they're just going to ride him as long as he can go this year, win or lose, Albert?
I mean, this Rich, I think this is kind of what the Broncos were hoping would happen, that Osweiler will go in and seize the job. And, look, he hasn't been perfect. I mean, there were points last night where you could easily question the way he was playing. But 2 weeks in a row, he's come through in the end and won ball games, and they're able to run Gary Kubiak's offense. That's the big thing. The basis of why that offense has been successful over 2.5 decades. All of that came back when Brock Osweiler was back in there, and so I think you add it all up, and Peyton Manning's not getting the job back, and so then the next question becomes, how do you handle this with him going forward? Do you sit down and talk to him and say, we want to put you on injured reserve, or do you give him that option and say that could be the graceful exit for you? Or does he want to come back as the backup, and finish out that way? But I think everybody sees it. The players see it. The coaches see it. The brass sees it. The Denver Broncos' best chance to advance in the playoffs in 2016, early 2016, is with Brock Osweiler.
Well, I mean, and Peyton Manning is the smartest guy in the room in many ways, he knows about teammates and how teammates respond and the importance of getting on the same page. Collinsworth was so spectacular in every way, as he usually is as an analyst last night, showing how sometimes it wasn't Osweiler throwing behind a guy or in front of a guy. It's just the guy, he's not on the same page yet with the receiver that's stopping short and things of that nature. So Peyton knows it too, I would think, correct? He sees this also, Albert.
Yeah, but there's a pride thing there, and we've seen that. I mean, look, it was rocky at the end in Indianapolis. These things are never easy, I think the best course of action right now for the Broncos is because, look, and I'll tell you this right now, Rich. John Elway had serious reservations about bringing Peyton Manning back in 2015 at all, and that was something they had serious discussions about, whether or not that was the right thing to do. And so it's not like there wasn't doubt coming into this season internally. I think the best course of action now, and, look, Elway's been honest with Manning in the past. He asked him to take a $10 million pay cut in the offseason. That didn't go over real well either. The best course of action right now, it would seem, would be for John Elway to sit down with Peyton Manning and have an honest discussion with him and say, how do we want to handle this going forward? Do we want to put you on IR, and end it that way, where, you've got the out of saying that an injury ended your career? or do you want to come back and dress for these games and be the backup and help Brock along? And so you give him the choice of what he wants to do. But I think the best thing right now isn't to play any games with Peyton Manning. It's to sit down and be honest with him and just tell him, Brock Osweiler gives us the best chance to win now.
Albert Breer, NFL Network, joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. Next up for the Patriots are Chip Kelly's Eagles, who have fallen and cannot get up. USC went ahead and took the interim tag off of Clay Helton, and there was a lot of there's a few reports out there that's saying that Kelly and USC met on Friday. Do we connect any dots here about Kelly's staying put in Philly with what happened at USC, Albert?
I don't know for a fact, Rich, whether or not there was a meeting on Friday. I would say this. There are people who are close to Chip Kelly who are involved in the hiring process at USC. And so I don't think there were ever any secrets between USC and Chip Kelly. I think USC probably got a pretty clear picture early on where Chip Kelly stood. And I think the fact that they've moved forward with Clay Helton is an indication that, Chip Kelly got word over to them that he planned on staying in the pros for right now. Now, I don't know how Chip Kelly's going to feel in a month, but I can tell you this. He loves the challenge of coaching in the NFL. I know he's not a huge fan of recruiting. And pragmatic as he is, I think that if he thinks that there's still a shot that his program can work in the NFL, he's going to embrace that challenge and stick with it. I'm not going to rule out the chance that he goes back to college in a month if this thing, burns to the ground over the last 5 games. But I think that what you've seen unfold at USC really over the last week and a half is a pretty clear indication that Chip is still committed to trying to make it work in Philadelphia.
Well, does Jeffrey Lurie fire Chip, the GM? Does he take that away from
him? And that part of it's interesting because that could be his out, and that's where you start to talk about, would he try to use that as an escape to try to go to the Titans, where his old protege is. So,
well, I mean, in that regard,
I don't think. If you're asking me, here's what I would say. I don't think there's any way that Jeffrey Lurie fires Chip Kelly, the coach. I don't think that happens at all. Like, I don't think Lurie's even entertaining the idea of that. Do I think that it's possible that that Lurie could approach Chip and say, this didn't work out. We looked at we're looking at what you've done over the last 12 months as far as acquiring players, and we need to get more help in here. Do I think that's possible? Some sort of restructuring for the second year in a row? I don't think it's impossible. And if you do come to that point, then Chip's probably asking the question, well, do I really want someone coming in here from the outside and picking players for me? Or do I want to just say to Jeffrey, hey, this isn't working out. Can we work out some sort of agreement? And then maybe try to find his way down to Tennessee.
Well, how does that happen? I mean, I got a minute left for you here. How does that happen? I mean, does Tennessee?
Look. I'm not saying it will happen. It'd be messy. There's no question.
No,
about
I know
that.
it involved very high draft choices.
I think generally the way these things work, because I mean, it's not like the whole personnel control thing was done on a handshake. That's part of a contract. And so you'd be talking about breaking a part of Chip Kelly's contract. So that would give him some negotiating power, and you say, okay, if you're going to do that, well, then just fire me as the coach. You fire him as the coach, then he's free to go wherever he wants.
Albert.
So, I mean, that could be his out. I'm not saying it will be, but that could be his out if there was some feeling on his end that he wanted to get down to Tennessee and coach Marcus Mariota.
All right, Albert, I've got 30 seconds for you to have the floor. Congratulations on your team. They look great.
I felt like I was pretty humble about it last week, so I'll keep that going. And you know what, Rich?
Yes.
As good as that felt, 13 out of 15 years, I know you guys are coming for us. I know Jim Harbaugh is doing things the right way there. And I'll tell you what scared me more than anything else.
Okay.
That whole week was him visiting Bo's grave. I mean, I swear, like that spooked me. I mean, I wasn't going to say it to you last week, but I was just like, man, there's a guy who gets it.
He does get it, but
I think we've got some great years of the rivalry ahead of us.
That's Albert. I'm appreciative of your humility in that regard, but I will give you this: Harbaugh does get it. He's got to get the front seven beefed up. I mean, your front seven, your O-line, Zeke. J.T. Barrett, holy smokes.
I saw a tweet from one of the Michigan reporters before the game, and he was watching warm-ups, and he said, like, it was eye-opening. He just said Ohio State looks markedly bigger in every position group. And so that's recruiting, But, I mean, look, look at the guys that Harbaugh recruited to Stanford. I mean, there was a pretty consistent stream of guys going to the NFL: offensive linemen, defensive linemen, obviously the quarterback. From a school that generally isn't exactly known as an NFL factory. So if I were you, I wouldn't be too worried about him eventually getting that right. It just takes a couple of years.
Albert, you take care of yourself. Thanks for calling in. Appreciate the knowledge,
you too, Rich.
as always. At Albert Breer on Twitter.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.